my son. How long will you disgrace this family? Leave this woman alone.
Why is this happening to me? Why me?
Finally, my son is free from your witchcraft nonsense. Nobody asked you to come here. You are not welcome.
Take this away from me. Please. Help me.
You need to give what costs you to get the healing you want. And
Chike! Chike! How many times have I called you? Wake up!
Please. Don't leave me.
My name is Nika Ada, popularly known as the woman with the issue of blood. And this is my story. I wasn't always like this. I was once an epitome of beauty. My skin glowed like palm oil beneath the sun. My eyes shone brighter than the morning star. And when I walked through the village square, men lost their words, while women whispered with envy. I was the pride of my mother and the ornament of my lineage. But beauty without humility is a curse. Pride swelled in my heart like a river in flood season. I felt higher than anyone else. If you were not up to my standard, I would definitely not even glance your way. Suitors came in number. Farmers, traders, hunters, sons of wealthy chiefs. But I dismissed them as one brushes away dust from the shoulder. In our village, there was only one man that met my eye. Every maiden dreamed of having him as a husband. Chike, the most handsome, the most accomplished, and above all, the richest. His wealth came from distant trade routes. His name was whispered with admiration among the elders, and when he passed, maidens adjusted their wrappers, hoping that he might notice them. Of course, it made sense that the most beautiful woman should marry the most desirable man. And so, when Chike's eyes finally settled on me, the heavens themselves seemed to rejoice. My mother danced for days. After life had stolen my father, she saw this marriage as a reward, her consolation, her compensation. Chike's house overflowed with riches, and I, clothed in coral beads and silken wrappers, walked through the village with my head high. But not everyone celebrated with me. Among the maidens, Ugo, the leader of the circle, had secretly nursed her desire for Chike. When she saw that I had won his heart, her face hardened like stone. She came to me one evening, her eyes blazing like hot embers. "Neka," she said, "you may think you have triumphed, but mark my words, if you marry Chike, you will not find peace. What you call joy will turn into sorrow." I laughed. Her words rolled off me like water off a duck's back. "Ugo," I replied, "do your worst. I was born to shine, and no one, not even you, can dim my light." And so, I planned my wedding with deliberate grandeur. Every detail, every cow slaughtered, every drum that beat through the night, I made sure it surpassed anything the village had ever seen. I wanted my enemies to choke on my happiness. Chike spared no expense, for he loved me deeply, and I foolishly believed that my life will forever be a festival of joy. 2 months later, my joy seemed complete. I missed my period. With trembling excitement, I told my husband, and he embraced me with laughter and tears. We ran to his mother, and when Mama heard, her joy knew no bounds. She tied her wrapper tightly and danced through the compound, singing, "Onye nwanyị ekele diriki." God has remembered us. The neighbors came and joined in the celebration. Everyone was filled with joy. But 5 months into my pregnancy, the night turned against me. I awoke to find my bed stained, crimson with blood. My heart sank. I shook Chike awake, and when he saw the blood, his face shattered. He held me close, whispering, "Anika, it will be well. Do not fear. We will have another one." But it was not well. The blood did not stop. After 5 days, it still flowed heavier than any woman's monthly flow. My husband sent for a doctor. Doctor after doctor after doctor. They came, they pressed my stomach, muttered strange languages, and left with heavy faces. Weeks turned to months, months to years. My bleeding never ceased. At first, Chike stood by me, but then his well drained into the pocket of physicians. His patience withered. His eyes, once tender, grew distant. His hands, once eager to hold me, grew cold. The doctors whispered that he must not have intercourse with me, lest he be infected with some unseen disease. And so, I became a wife in name only, untouched, unloved, unwanted. My beauty faded. My skin, it lost its glow. My body grew frail. For life was in the blood, and I was losing blood. In the marketplace, women who once gossiped in jealousy now gossiped in pity and scorn. "How the mighty has fallen," they sneered at me. Sineka, the pride of the village, reduced to nothing. I could hear them. Their words cut deeper than knives. At public gatherings, I was pushed aside. Mothers pulled their children away from me, fearing that I carried death in my blood. During August meeting, I was sneered
The
at.
housefly's kingdom has come.
I was
Nobody
chased
asked you
away
to come here. You are not welcome.
I was nothing. Like I belonged to the dust. My mother wept for me. She sought herbs from every healer, boiled roots, leaves, until the whole compound smelled of medicine. She visited Dibias, fasting and praying on my behalf, but nothing changed. Everyone abandoned me. The place of worship,
Please,
it was not
I beg
exempted.
you.
They believed I
Please
would
don't throw
pollute
me
the
out
house
of
of the
here.
Lord, and so they
It's my
banned
only
me
hope.
from coming to the house of worship.
Madam, don't come back here. You are unclean, unfit. Go away!
As if that was not enough, my mother-in-law turned against me. She stormed into our home one morning, her voice sharp as a blade. "This woman is a witch," she cried. "Ever since my son married her, his wealth has vanished. Business partners flee from him. Misfortune follows him like a shadow. She has a bad head. She's the cause of our ruin." Indeed, Mama was not lying. Chike's once overflowing riches now struggled to feed his household. Men who once begged my husband for partnership now avoided him. Whispers and rumors began to spread that anyone who did business with him would share in my unfortunate curse. And so, my husband began to avoid me in public. When we were going anywhere together, he would walk ahead of me, ashamed to be seen by my side. At gatherings, he refused to speak to me. The love we once shared was now a graveyard of silence. I was desperate, and in my desperation, I remembered Ugo, my old rival. I remember that she said to me that I would regret marrying Chike. She threatened me with sorrow, and I was enraged. I stormed her compound, determined to confront her. Ugo!
I know you are responsible for my predicament. Please lift the curse, I beg you.
Ugo looked at me with cold eyes, then laughed bitterly. Nneka, you flatter yourself. I said those words in anger, but I am not the cause of your suffering. You carry your own burden. Her denial pierced me. I wanted to believe her, but deep in my heart, resentment grew like a weed. Whether guilty or not, I secretly blamed her, and the bitterness within me deepened. And so, the woman who once lived in glory now lived in shadows. I preferred to walk at night because walking during the day was tantamount to being the center of gossip. But this is only the beginning of my story. The days turned into months, months into years, and still my body bled like a wounded river. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law continued to fuel my husband's anger towards me.
Chike! Chike! How many times have I called you? Wake up!
He became a shadow of himself. He no longer spoke to me, except in anger. The man who once caressed my hands now slammed doors and cursed the day he met me. Whenever he looked at me, I saw disgust where there was once desire. His mother's words had taken root in his heart. He began to believe that I was the source of his bad omen. One night, after a quarrel, Chike shouted, Nneka, if you truly love me, leave this house. Perhaps your departure will leave this curse from me. His words struck like thunder. I wanted to scream, to remind him of the vows we had shared. But the weight of shame pressed me silent. I realized I was no longer a wife in his heart. I was a burden he longed to cast away. He had not touched me in 2 years. I wondered where he got his satisfaction from. Obviously, I knew he was cheating on me, but I could care less. My mother begged me not to return home, saying the disgrace would be too much for her to bear. So I remained, caught between a cheating husband who had rejected me and society that had scorned me. There were nights when I would look into the dark sky and ask,
why is this happening to me? Why me?
Why me? What crime have I committed that the gods should punish me? But I got no answer. My husband finally drove me away. I returned to my mother's hut with nothing but the clothes on my back and the shame clinging to my skin. My husband returned some days after with his kinsmen. I thought he had come to beg, but alas, he came to officially say goodbye to me.
I am sorry, Ada, but the shame is too much for me.
I broke. Every sense and desire to live that remained in me vanished. I begged him. I pleaded, but his mind was made up already. My mother received me with open arms. You're my daughter, she said. No matter what the world calls you, this house will never cast you out. For a time, her presence was a balm to my wounded spirit. She prepared herbs, sang old lullabies, and sat beside me at night. She whispered prayers into the darkness. Even though I continued to bleed, I felt less alone in my suffering. But sorrow has a way of multiplying. One morning, I awoke to find my mother motionless beside the hearth. The firewood had burned to ash. Her head was rested against the wall, her eyes forever closed. Death had claimed her silently in the night. I screamed until my voice cracked, shaking her body as though I could wake her, but her skin had already grown cold. Neighbors came running, their faces heavy with pity, but none drew too near. They whispered among themselves. Even her mother could not survive the curse. Truly, this girl carries death with her. I buried my mother with trembling hands, each shovel of earth falling like thunder upon my chest. When the last mound was patted down, I knew this was it. I was utterly alone. No husband, no child, no mother, only my bleeding body and the silence of an empty heart. For weeks, I wandered in grief. I sat by the doorway staring into nothingness, too weak to cook, too tired to speak. My body smelled of blood. My wrapper stained beyond washing. Flies gathered, and I sat still, letting time swallow me whole. It was in those days of silence that Uju appeared. Uju was a young woman from the village. She silently admired me in the days of my bloom, but I remembered how rude I was to her because she wasn't as pretty as I was, and hence she wasn't fit to enter my circle. How funny life was. Where are those in my circle now? Life is so unpredictable. Anyways, Uju started visiting me after my mother died. She consoled me. At first, she came with baskets of food, roasted yam, palm oil, a few garden eggs. Eat, Nika, she would say gently. Your body needs strength. I eyed her with suspicion, for I had learned not to trust easily. But hunger is a louder master than pride. Slowly, I accepted her gifts, and I started to accept her. Then she began to stay longer. She swept the floor, fetched water from the stream, and even washed my stained wrappers without complaint. Her hands were gentle. Her words were kind. Why do you help me? I asked her one afternoon, unable to hide my doubt. Don't you fear that the curse upon me will cling to you? Uju smiled, a small, secretive smile. Not everyone believes the gossip of the village. Pain is pain, and I have seen enough of it to know when someone is suffering. Her words disarmed me. For the first time in years, I felt a spark of warmth, the fragile thread of companionship. I began to speak to her. Every detail, from small things, the way my mother used to cook, the flowers I once braided in my hair, then heavier things, the nights of blood, the sting of rejection, the shame of my neighbors. Little by little, I let down the walls I had built around my heart. With Uju, I found myself laughing softly at forgotten memories, crying freely without shame. She became my ear, my comfort, my only friend. I told her everything, but I did not know that when one opens their heart in desperation, they also hand another the key to their soul. At first, Uju was the gentle breeze in my storm. She cooked for me. She listened to my tears. She stayed when others fled. I thought the gods had finally shown me mercy by sending me a friend. But the human heart is a forest. No one truly knows what hides in its shadows. One afternoon, as we sat in my late mother's compound, Uju's eyes wandered over the land. My mother's farm plots stretching beyond the stream, the coconut trees swaying at the edge, the fertile soil that had fed our family for generations. She asked, as though casually, "Nika, who tends these lands now that your mother is gone?" I sighed, too weary to suspect her curiosity. "My dear, no one. They are mine. Though, what use do I have for them now? I cannot work the soil in this state. The land is sleeping, just like my life." Uju's eyes glimmered, though she hid it behind a mask of sympathy. "Do you know what such land is worth? With it, you could change your destiny, perhaps even find healing." Healing? That single word hooked my soul like a fish struggling on a line. Days later, Uju returned, her face flushed with excitement. "Nika, Nika," she whispered. "I have heard of a powerful Dibia in a distant village. People say his words are fire and his hands draw sickness out of the body like water from a well. My dear, if you go to him, your blood will dry, your shame will vanish, and your beauty will return." Hope and fear wrestled in my chest. I have been to healers, a lot of them, quacks, liars, but they left me worse than they found me. I told her so, but Uju pressed my hands, her voice urgent. "This one is different, my sister. He needs no herbs, no charms. He will tell you exactly what must be done. Trust me, sister. What have you got to lose?" Her eyes burrowed deep, and so did her words. What did I have left? A ruined body, a broken name, an empty future. And so weak and desperate, I allowed Uju to lead me to the supposed shrine. We journeyed across the dusty path, through thick bushes, and finally, we got to an iroko tree. There, in the dimness of a thatched hut, sat the man she called the Great Dibia. Cowries hung from his neck, and the smell of burning herbs filled the air. He looked at me and shook his head slowly, clicking his tongue. "Woman," he said, his voice deep and commanding, "your blood is not ordinary blood. It is tied to the spirit world. Unless you sacrifice greatly, your curse will never leave you. Do you understand?"
You need to give what costs you to get the healing you want.
"Sacrifice greatly?" I trembled. "What sacrifice do you mean?" He leaned forward, his gaze piercing at me. "All that binds you to the earth, all that ties you to your past must be given up. The gods demand it. Sell your land, your inheritance, everything that remains of your mother. Bring the money here. I'll perform the sacrifice. Only then will you be free." The words struck me like a thunderclap. My mother's land was my last anchor in this world. Without it, I would have nothing, not even a place to lay my bones when death finally came. "I cannot," I whispered, shaking my head. "That land is all I have left of her." But Uju placed her hand firmly on mine, her voice soft and persuasive. "Nika, listen to him. What is land compared to your life? Would your mother want you to cling to soil while you waste away? She would want you healed, restored, whole. If selling the land will buy back your future, then do it." Her words pressed against my chest, heavy with false concern. I struggled, my heart torn in two. But desperation is a cruel master. For nights, I lay awake, hearing the Dibia's voice echo in my head. "Sell all you have, or remain cursed forever." Finally, with trembling hands, I agreed. I looked for the best and highest bidder, and I sold my mother's land, our lineage's pride. the soil that carried the sweat of generations. Oh, the buyers rejoiced. It was a great piece of land and had huge potential. I watched them as they handed me the money with tears blinding my eyes. It was not just soil I was selling, it was the last piece of myself. With Uju by my side, I carried the money to the shrine. The Dibia's eyes lit up as he received it, though he masked his greed behind chants and smoke. He poured libations, waved cowtails in the air, and muttered words I couldn't understand. Then he turned to me and said, "The sacrifice is complete. Soon you will see the change." But deep inside, a chill gripped me. Something felt wrong, yet I silenced my doubts. I told myself that perhaps this time God had truly heard me. What I did not know was that I had not only sold my land, I had sold the last shield protecting me from utter ruin. Uju had told me there would be no ritual, but this Dibia told me that the cleansing had to be done at the river. He said, "Your blood must meet the water," he said, "and your body must be bathed where the spirits dwell." And so at dawn, Uju led me along the narrow path, a hand gripping mine as though she was guiding me towards salvation. My feet dragged in the sand, my body weak from years of bleeding. But I followed because hope, no matter how thin, was stronger than my doubts. When we reached the river, the Dibia was already there. He motioned for me to kneel. Two young boys carried a white chicken to him, its wings bound, its eyes darting wildly. The bird squawked, sensing the doom in the air. "Remove her wrapper," the Dibia ordered. Uju stepped forward and helped me untie the cloth clinging to my waist. Shame burned through me, but I was too broken to resist. The cold breeze struck my skin, raising goosebumps, and I shivered. The Dibia lifted the chicken high, then began circling me, muttering incantations in a language I did not know. He lowered the bird and passed it around my head. Once, twice, thrice, each time faster, as though he were transferring my affliction into the poor bird. "The blood that has chained you, let it pass into this fowl," he thundered. "The shame that has followed you, let it be carried away into the waters." Ase. I lowered myself until the water covered me, my heart pounding with fear and faint hope. The Dibia sprinkled herbs into the water, their bitter smell mixing with the metallic scent of blood. "Bathe," he said. "Wash away the curse. By this sacrifice you are made whole." I rubbed the water over my skin, my body trembling. In that moment, I felt something shift inside me. But it was not healing. It was heaviness, a shadow, as though instead of lifting my burden, the ritual had chained me tighter to despair. When I emerged from the river, shivering and weak, the Dibia nodded as if satisfied. "Go home, you'll soon see the change." Uju wrapped me in a cloth, her smile soft and almost tender. But behind her eyes, I saw something else, a flicker of triumph, like a hunter watching prey caught in a trap. And though I couldn't name it yet, my spirit whispered that something was deeply and terribly wrong. The morning after the ritual, I sat in my mother's old compound, waiting for strength to bloom in my bones. The Dibia had said healing will come quickly. I expected to wake up and feel whole, to feel clean, but my body was the same. My blood trickled, my stomach still knotted in pain. And Uju, sweet smiling Uju, oh, Uju did not come. At first, I thought nothing of it. Perhaps she was resting. Perhaps she was fetching palm oil, or maybe helping her cousin in the next compound. But when 2 days passed, and then 3, and Uju did not appear, fear crawled up my spine like a lizard. What if something happened to her? I whispered into empty air, concerned for my friend. Uju had been my only friend, the only one who had listened when everyone else turned away. My heart quickened. I could not sit still. So I went. I ran to her compound. Her compound sat at the edge of the village, the part overgrown with elephant grass. I pushed through the weeds and called her name. Uju! Uju! My voice echoed, but no answer came. The house was too quiet. The calabash that always hung by her doorway was gone. The cooking stones were cold. No smoke rising. Even the goats that used to roam her yard were missing. Uju! I stepped inside. Dust, empty mats, bare walls. Not a single wrapper, not a single pot. My knees buckled as the truth hit me. Uju was gone. Uju had run away. No, it can't be. My voice cracked. I rushed back to the path, heart pounding. Maybe she had gone to the Dibia's shrine. Maybe, just maybe, she had gone to the Dibia's shrine. Maybe she was still with him, preparing the next step of my cleansing. I ran, stumbling over stones, sweat pouring down my face. The forest path twisted, familiar yet strange, until I reached the sacred grove where the shrine stood, or where it used to stand. The clearing was empty. No huts, no chalk marks, no boys, no dibia, only the trampled ground, the ashes of an old fire, and the faint smell of blood that had long dried. My chest hollowed. I turned in circles, searching, hoping I had lost my way. But the truth was merciless. The shrine was gone, vanished like mist before the sun. My voice broke the silence. Uju, Dibia, somebody please answer me. Please. But only the birds replied, their mocking cries echoing through the trees. I fell to my knees, clutching the soil. My breath came in gasps. The money, my mother's land, everything gone. And in that moment, I knew I had been emptied, stripped, not just of wealth, but of trust, of dignity, of hope. The river had not washed my curse away. It had only carried me deeper into despair. The path home stretched long and cruel beneath the sun. My feet dragged as though chained to the earth. My body hollow, my spirit broken. Each step echoed the same words in my mind. You're finished. You're finished. Nika, you are finished. The forest mocked me with its careless beauty. Birds sang, leaves rustled. The air smelled of ripened mangoes. But none of it reached me. My heart was ash. When I reached the bend where the great Udala tree stood, I could go no further. My strength failed me. I sank to the ground, leaning my back against the gnarled trunk, and for the first time since my suffering began, I let the weight of it crush me. Tears burst from my eyes, hot and unrelenting. They fell not like the quiet weeping of a woman, but like the wail of a child stripped of everything. My cries rose and broke against the empty sky. Why me? I sobbed, clutching at my chest as though to tear the pain out with my bare hands. Why did you let them deceive me? Why did you take my husband, my beauty, my mother, and now even her land? What sin did I ever commit that cannot be forgiven? My voice cracked into silence, but the tears refused to stop. My body shook, my wrapper soaked with dust and sweat. I wept until my head throbbed and my throat burned. And so I walked back home, a broken woman, unaware of what would become of me. I was just going to let the days go by and hope that death takes me away. It was the 12th year. I had endured this pain for 12 long years. It had breathed itself into the marrow of my days. The only relief I had was when I fell asleep. On that particular morning, I went to the stream to fetch water because the house felt too small for my sorrow. As I burned to dip the calabash, voices rose from the path, women from the market, their laughter thin as dry twigs. I tried to shut my ears and avoid them. I had learned the hard way to ignore tidings that promised nothing but disappointment. But their words breathed into the wind and reached me anyways. A healer is passing through the village. He heals without a charge. I froze. Heals without a charge? Funny. No healer heals without a charge. The phrase landed in me like an impossible thing. I had paid doctors, dibias, liars with more than money. My dignity, my land, my trust. And now someone claimed to heal for nothing. I whispered to myself, bitter and small. No one heals without a charge. But a voice answered me, close as breath and strange as a bell. This one is different. I startled so violently that the water sloshed over the rim. I turned once, twice, but there was no one near me. Just the river, the shade of tall reeds, the backs of the women as they treaded their way past. The voice had come from nowhere and from everywhere. It shook something loose inside me, not hope, but the faintest crack where hope might one day leak through. I lifted my calabash filled with water, determined to go back home. But then, my mind couldn't stop thinking about it. A man who heals without charges. Could this stranger be what my life needs? I didn't know whether I was being saved or led to another snare. All I knew was that my feet moved before my fear could stop them. I told myself it wouldn't hurt to watch. At least let me go and entertain myself. I had seen enough of healers to know this was a fake. So I dropped the calabash where it hit the ground with a soft thud, and I walked towards the village square, hiding behind trees to prevent people from seeing me. I was unsure, hungry only for curiosity. When I reached the edge of the crowd, I heard the first scream. I am healed! Healed! The sound split the air and suddenly pulled me forward like a hook. I pushed through bodies, hands clutching at my sleeves, voices pressing in. Step back, Nika! Step back, Nika! But my resolve had breathed itself into something fierce. Just the garment. Just the garment, I told myself. Just the tip. Not the whole garment. Just the hem. If I can just touch the hem, I'll be healed. I edged my way behind him. A simple man standing among them. Not like the painted dibias I had known. Plain cloak, worn sandals. A quiet hush before the rain. The crowds parted around him like reeds around a river. Even from behind, an unusual peace settled over me, as if the world has pressed a palm to my brow and whispered, "Wait." My hands lifted on their own accord. My fingers brushed the hem of his cloak. The clothes soft and ordinary beneath my touch. But the moment my skin met his clothes, something ran through me. Not a cold, but a vibration that climbed from the tips of my fingers down into my chest and settled there like a warm stone. Suddenly, I felt the blood stop. I felt my bones jump back to life. I felt light return back to my eyelids. But the healer turned, as if at the sound only he heard. The whole crowd fell away into a ring of faces, expectant and startled. He looked over the shoulder of the woman he had been talking to and into the press of people behind him. "Who touched me?" he asked. The question landed like a blade, and then, like a hand, my body froze. How could he know? A dozen hands had touched him by now. Men, women, children, everybody was touching him. But his voice had searched the crowd and picked my single small touch. Heat rose up my neck. Shame and wonder breathed together. What did it mean that he felt my touch as different? Why had my own touch awoken something in him? One of his men laughed softly, incredulous. "Master, you jest. Everyone is touching you. The whole market is pressing on you." His voice carried a tone meant to dismiss, as if to say the question need not to be answered. But the man, the one in the plain cloak, looked at me, not with accusation, but with a quietness that reached down to the parts of me that I had left buried. His face held no scorn, only a steady, astonishing knowing. Up close, I could see the compassion in him was not a borrowed thing. It had weight, like a promise. My knees went weak. I stepped forward and my voice came out small, as if someone else was speaking through me. It was me, sir. I'm sorry, but I had no hope. You were my last hope. Tears blurred the words. I could not say more. The crowd trembled, leaning in as if the very earth had stopped to listen. He met my eyes, and with a softness that felt like the first rain after a long drought, he said, "Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction." Joy and terror ripped through me at once. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to run. I wanted to hide. I wanted to sink to the ground and give thanks. I stood there, the taste of salt and sudden life on my tongue, feeling 12 years of burden lift like a mist at dawn. The square was silent. Even the wind seemed to pause as his words settled over me. "Daughter, Your faith has made you well. At first, no one moved. The same voices that once spat mockery at my knee now held their tongues. I rose slowly from the dust, my body trembling, my face streaked with tears. And for the first time in 12 years, those tears were not born of sorrow. I placed the hand on my stomach. The flow had stopped. The ache that had become my companion was gone. I could breathe again, deep and full, as if life itself had returned to me. The crowd shifted. I saw the astonishment in their eyes, the murmurs rippling like waves through the people. Some pointed, whispering, "Is that not Nekada, the cursed one?" Others exclaimed, "Her face! Look at her face! She's shining again!" I did not need their approval anymore. What I carried within me was greater than their words. I turned to look at him again, and my eyes met his. He offered me a smile that was gentle and strong before moving on with his men. The people followed him, their shouts rising, but I remained rooted where I stood, clutching the memory of his gaze, his words, his peace. Slowly, I began to walk home. Each step felt lighter than the last, as though the earth itself rejoiced beneath my feet. The trees bowed in the evening breeze. The birds called sweetly. And for the first time in many years, I lifted my head high. When I reached my mother's old compound, I paused at the doorway. The house that had been a cage of sorrow now felt like a new beginning. I touched the wall, breathing in the familiar scent of clay and wood. But this time, it did not choke me. I whispered into the air, my voice steady and sure. "The years of pain are over. I am healed. I am free." I knew my story would no longer be remembered for my suffering, but for the one who called me daughter. With joy unshakable, I stepped inside, ready to live again. My name is Emeka Ada. I was once called the woman with the issue of blood, but now I am the one he has restored. And that man who restored me, his name is Jesus.